Hey gang, just want to come back to you with another video in regards to, as my title said, how can we fix this amateur problem that we have in the claiming rule to make everything a little bit more fair. And I've got a couple ideas, but I'm open to all you guys. Put them in the comments. I also want to thank you guys for really reaching out and commenting on the last video. I'll also put a link to that at the end of this video, if you haven't seen it already, about the claiming rule and my thoughts on some of the media coverage of it and Yamaha Corporation, etc., Star Racing. But to getting to this one, so as we all know, the manufacturers want to show well at the amateur races. Winning on Sunday equates to selling on Monday, is the old rule. But in the last couple decades, the 20 years specifically I know of, they have stretched the rules. Cheating is hard. I wouldn't say it. Would never go that far to say cheating, because in the modified classes and the B classes and B mod class, which is kind of the stepping stone class nowadays, there's really you're allowed to mod the bikes and change out parts and make them better. So for an answer, well, what can we do? Because, you had a guy that spent nearly, who knows, I'll throw out there 60 grand on his bike. That being Haiden Deegan and Star Yamaha Racing's bike that they provided him at Loretta's. And I'm saying that not knowing for sure. No one knows for sure what was in that bike. But Bobby Reagan came out and said in an interview that there was things on there that he didn't want people to get. So it was obvious that that bike is not comparable to the competition. And that's not a slight on Haiden. I want you guys to know, I like Haiden Deegan. I like Brian Deegan. I think the Deegans in general are pretty good people. But the industry kind of put them in a position of treating them like a pro at the amateur level. And his bike was not the same as his competition. So therefore, someone had the ability, they put that bike into play to be claimed. That's the rules now as written. So how do we fix it? Manufacturers don't want to lose bikes, and we as viewing public don't necessarily want to see everybody run, the really good riders like a Haiden, really run a bike that is stock, because we all change our bikes. I can tell you my KO K6R has Showa Honda front forks on it because they're just better. They're lighter. The main reason for me was they were lighter and they had more adjustability. So my thought on it is this. The rule exists already as double the cost MSRP of a bike. And I believe that that is fair. And it should be a sliding scale to go along with inflation. These parts are going to cost a little bit more. The bikes are going to go up a little bit more. So that would be the high end on my thought process on it. Another way would be to set a hard cap. You can only spend $5,000 more than the cost of the bike. But that won't get you like a kit suspension like some of these kids have. And that's not the general populace, I think, but there are some affluent people that race amateur level, and they still get smoked. Their rider may get smoked, but they spend, that kind of money for a kit suspension. So I think you leave it the way it is. You go MSRP and that again. So if MSRP was 8, you could spend no more than 16 on a bike. But where the problem lies is how they enforce it, which was the shit show that was at Loretta Lynn's this year. So how do we do it and everybody's happy with the result? I say you do it blind. The fathers, because most of these kids are, underage. They should be underage. The fathers, in some cases mothers, if it's a mother only. And maybe anybody who's a guardian for that kid racing in the amateur level. They do a protest to the AMA trailer. You have to find the AMA trailer, and this half hour after a race kind of crap. Let's think about the time. I don't have the time, but geez, Loretta Lynn's is huge. I've been there a couple times just to get from one end to the other. Even if you have a golf cart, it's like 15 minutes. So this half hour thing, let's get rid of that and expand that time frame. Make it blind. Nobody says anything to anybody else. You go in there and nobody knows who it is. And the AMA and their officials, not the promoter, not the Cotters of the world, even though I understand the situation, I sound like I'm picking on him, but the reality is when you have a big event like that, sometimes the promoter provides extra people and help. But this needs to be, claims like this should only be made to the AMA. Go to the AMA trailer, blind. Nobody knows, so no one knows who you are. You fill out a claim form with a number and you get a receipt. You bring cash money, you make the claim, and from that point on, the AMA handles it. And it doesn't happen that day at the race. The person whose bike it is, the company whose bike it is, has to give that bike up the Monday following. But it has to be tagged and sealed. No altercations can be made to the bike. On my thoughts to the industry, stop propping these kids up as if they are pros when they're not. There's plenty of evidence out here that proves the fact that just because you groom some of these kids, they don't all turn into good pros. So why spend so much time and effort on it in the first place? It's making racing ridiculous. For someone to compete, and again, I'm not picking on Haiden, he's just the most recent example and the most notable example. How many kids get to go to a training camp? How many kids have a whole factory behind them making changes to their bike as needed to personalize the bike for them to race these amateur events? I believe it's very small, the number of people that have that kind of support behind them, and they're an amateur. So what I'm saying to you is they're not. So let's stop pretending. Either wait until they're old enough to be a pro and give them that support, and don't support them at that high level at the amateur races, or stay within the rules. Check ourselves as an industry. Check yourself. Don't bring a $40,000, $50,000 bike, maybe even plus, to an amateur level race. And I'm not talking about the claiming rule. I'm saying be fair. Be fair to the competition. Be fair to the industry. To Joe Schmo over here who, spent $10,000 trying to get to the race. It's not cheap to get there. Bought a $10,000 bike, spent another $3,000 or $4,000, modding it up for this one race for the chance for a shot of notoriety. Stop making it so important to them. Amateur level should be amateur level, and bragging rights should be the end of it. You guys are basing this as a farm system for the pros. Let's try to stop that. I think if we stop that at like Loretta Lynn's and the Mini-O's and Ponca City, some of those races down in Texas, I think people will be more inclined to enjoy the sport, one, be able to afford the sport, two, and how can it hurt you as an industry? You industry guys think that you need to be out here having these super kids. Joe Average will sell you bikes if he's winning. You'll get more people word of mouth wise if the bike is good and you're winning and you're not spending $1 bazillion trying to make it that way. Or you're spending all this advertisement money. You're spending, quote unquote, travel. That's how they pay amateurs if you guys are unaware of it. They give travel expenses to the parents. Just go look up that one. But anyway, so like I said, blind, keep it the same way. And AMA and MX Sports, enforce the freaking rule. Don't make it a blackball situation or an unwritten rule that you don't claim bikes. Enforce it. I guarantee you, had that kid Brennan Schofield claimed the bike at Loretta's this year, you wouldn't see Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, KTM, Gas, Husky come back next year with $60,000, $70,000 bikes because everybody and their brother will line up to claim them. Keep the rules simple. Enforce what already exists. And make the sport fun again. This stuff is taking away all of the fun. These kids are being treated, they're showing up in, have you looked around and seen that they're showing up in $100,000 mobile homes, pulling $30,000 trailers with $5,000 or $6,000 canopies at an amateur event? It's gotten ridiculous. Let's get back to simple. Let's get back to enjoyable, the fun. That's just my 2 cents. I hope some other people have better ideas. It's just what came to my head as I was making that video yesterday. You know, a lot of times people say, if you don't have an answer, then you're kind of the problem itself. So I'm giving you an answer. Enforce the rule the way it's written. MSRP plus an additional MSRP amount. So if a bike is $16,000, don't go over. Do what you want. That's fine. Everything else you should be able to do. If you can get a piston, if you can get suspension, if you can get your ECU mapped in that framework, then no one's going to claim your bike. And everyone will be more on an even playing field. That's my 2 cents. Please comment, like, subscribe. I want to say thank you to all the people who watched the other video. Again, I'm going to link it up here. And I'll catch you on the next one.